All right, let's dive right in and open up the Linux Admins Toolkit. Today we're going to master 5 commands that I promise you are the real deal. These are the tools that separate the pros from the novices, the ones you'll be using every single day to solve actual, real-world problems.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever logged into a Linux system and just felt completely overwhelmed? You're staring at thousands of log entries, trying to navigate these ridiculously complex directories. It feels like you're drowning in data, right? Well, how do the pros manage to tame all that digital chaos?
Here's our game plan. First up, we're going to get a solid handle on counting and navigating files. Then we'll get into how to compare files to make sure nothing's broken or out of sync. After that, we'll tackle some of those super common errors you're bound to run into. And finally, we'll show you how to pull all this knowledge together to absolutely ace your next technical interview.
Okay, let's get into it. Imagine this scenario. You get an alert. Something's wrong with the server. The logs are just exploding. Your first job is to figure out the scale of the problem, and you need to do it fast. It's time to tame that data flood.
So our first tool is WC, which stands for word count. But look, don't let that name fool you. For a sysadmin, its most powerful trick isn't counting words, it's counting lines. This little command lets you instantly measure the size of a log file or a data set without ever having to open it. It's a huge time saver.
And these simple little flags, they solve completely different problems. You are going to use WC-L constantly, especially on log files, just to see the number of entries. WC-C gives you a super quick byte count, basically the file size. And WC-L, oh, that one's a hidden gem for finding weird, extra long lines in a data file that might be causing a script to totally choke. And this, right here, is where WC becomes an absolute lifesaver. Picture it. A server is failing. Instead of scrolling through a massive log file for hours until your eyes glaze over, you run this one simple command. It finds every single line with the word error and pipes those results straight to WC-L, giving you an instant count. Boom. You've just figured out the scale of the problem in seconds. Okay, so you found 5,000 error entries. Now what? Well, you've got to investigate, right? And that's where our next essential command comes in, cd, or change directory. It's maybe the command you'll type most, just to move around the file system to get to where the action is. And listen, this is what separates a beginner from a pro. Anybody can type out a long path like cd/var/log, but an efficient admin, they live by these shortcuts. cd- is my absolute favorite. It's like an undo button for your navigation, letting you jump right back to the directory you were just in. Mastering these is going to save you countless keystrokes every single day. So you've used cd to get to the right directory, but that just leads to a whole new set of questions. Is this config file the same as my backup? Did that huge file transfer I just did actually work correctly? To answer those questions, you need to verify your system's integrity. First up, we've got CMP for compare. Think of CMP as your fast, silent security guard. It's perfect for checking if binary files or executables have been corrupted. It doesn't care what's in the file, only if they are bit for bit identical. It's totally built for speed and automation. Next is comm. Now, this is your go-to tool for comparing lists. Let's say you need to know which users exist on server A, but not on server B. Comm is perfect for that. But, and this is a big but, it has one critical rule, a classic interview gotcha. Your input files absolutely have to be sorted alphabetically first. If they're not, the results are just going to be meaningless garbage. And finally, the powerhouse of the group, diff. You see, if compare just tells you if files are different, diff tells you exactly how they're different. It's the engine behind tools you probably already use, like Git. You use it to review changes in config files, scripts, source code. Its output can even be used to create patch files. It's incredibly powerful. So, how do you choose the right tool for the job? It's pretty simple, actually. For a quick yes or no integrity check, especially inside a script, you're going to use CMP. For comparing sorted lists of things, like user accounts or installed packages, comm is your friend. And when you need to see every single little detailed change between two text files, diff is always the tool you reach for. Of course, in the real world, things don't always go according to plan. Errors happen. A lot. Knowing how to recognize them and, more importantly, how to fix them quickly is what makes you a reliable, go-to administrator. Ah, yes. This old friend. I guarantee you will see this error message thousands of times in your career.
It's just the shell's polite way of saying, hey, I have no idea what you're talking about. But when you see it, what's the very first thing you should check?
Seriously, 90% of the time, it's just a simple typo. We all do it. So just double check your spelling and your path. If all that looks correct, the next usual suspect is permissions. You might be trying to peek into a file or directory that your user account isn't allowed to read. A quick LSLD on the path will show you those permissions instantly.
And here's that pro tip for comm again, because trust me, this is going to save you hours of pulling your hair out. If the output from comm just looks like complete nonsense, don't blame the command, question your input. The command works by walking through both files at the same time, and it assumes they're in order. If they're not, it just gets lost immediately. So always sort first. Okay, let's bring this all home. Knowing how to use these commands is one thing, but being able to clearly explain that knowledge in a high-pressure technical interview, that's a whole other ballgame. This is how you go from looking like a user to being seen as a professional administrator. All right, so you're in the interview, you're in the hot seat, and they hit you with this classic question. A basic answer is, CMP is for binary files and diff is for text. And while that's not wrong, but a great answer shows you actually understand the practical side of things and that you're thinking about automation. A stellar answer sounds more like this. Well, I'd use CMP inside an automation script. It's way faster than diff, and its simple exit code, 0 if the files are the same, 1 if they're different, is perfect for a script to make a decision on, like verifying a deployment worked. But for a manual configuration review, where I need to see the actual line-by-line changes myself, I would always use diff. You see the difference? You're not just defining the tool, you're solving a problem with it. And here it is, the power move. This is what tells an interviewer that you think like a senior administrator. Talk about combining these tools. Explain how you'd write a script that pulls a list of running services, sorts it, then uses comm to compare it against a golden server to find any differences, and then emails an alert. That shows you're not just fixing problems, you're building resilient automated systems. So just remember, these commands aren't just trivia for passing a certification exam. They are the absolute fundamental building blocks for managing Linux systems like a pro. Mastering them isn't just a good idea, it's completely non-negotiable. So, I'll leave you with a challenge. Take a hard look at your daily workflow. What's one repetitive task, some kind of checking, counting, or comparing that you could automate right now with the tools we just talked about? Answering that question for yourself is your first real step from just learning to actually doing. Thanks for joining us.